Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This week we're talking all about the MCAT application and the secondary applications as they are starting to roll out. So if you are interested in learning more about the most common secondary prompts, how to tackle them one by one, then give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe. So let's get started. So today I wanted to cover some general advice on how to approach the secondary applications before we start getting into the specific prompts. So tip number one is obviously submit early. Just as we've been saying about primary applications, MCAT, make sure that you're doing everything ahead of time. So most schools typically have rolling admissions. So what that means is as you submit your application, they review that application first, and then they start making decisions whether they're going to give you a secondary, whether they're going to give you an interview. And that's why it's to your benefit to make sure that you submit everything early, including your secondary applications. Now, typically when you receive secondary applications, they will give you around a 1 or 2 week turnaround, so you will have roughly 1 or 2 weeks to actually write your essays and submit them. And if you are applying to, let's say, 15, 20, or 25 or even 30 schools and you send in 30 primary applications, then you're more likely to get 20 plus secondary applications. So all of a sudden you've got these tight deadlines, you have all of these secondary applications, and you feel yourself having to juggle all of these things. So one way we can make sure that we're submitting everything on time, submitting early and not getting overwhelmed, is by using an application tracker. So here I'm going to show you what my tracker looks like, and if you find it useful, then you can definitely use it. Alright, so I have two trackers. I have a full application tracker that will track absolutely everything, kind of like a big picture, and then we have a separate secondary app tracker. Now, if we're looking at the full app tracker, I have given priority, so you can number your schools depending on which one is your biggest priority versus your smallest priority, you know, which one is like your dream school, which one you don't care about as much. So I've just put in some random names, and again, I also like to include the average MCAT and the average GPA that schools are looking to accept, so I can compare to my statistics. Then the letter of recommendation. If you are getting a bunch of different letters of recommendation from many different places, then in this column you can use to assign which letter of recommendation will go to which school and make sure you're appropriately keeping track of that. And then once you submit your primaries, you can note down the date here. Once you start receiving the secondary, you can note down the date, and you can also note down when that secondary is due, because you'll end up getting a bunch of emails from a bunch of schools and you just need to make sure you're staying on top of it. And then, of course, you can submit the date for when you submitted your secondary finally, and in the end, if you end up getting interviews, so let's say invited, and then you can say for October 3rd or something, whenever you end up finalizing your interview date, and then final result, whether you're accepted, rejected, waitlisted, whatever it may be. Now, whatever you input here will automatically get transferred to the secondary application tracker as well, and the secondary dates will be inputted here, which is important. That way you can basically see what is your priority, what you need to get done first, and when you need to submit it so you don't end up forgetting your due dates. Now, another thing that I like to do on the secondary app tracker, though, is essays. So I will note down how many essays there are, and for each essay I will briefly write down the word count as well as what the overall topic of the essay is. So this will help you later on because you will be able to see, let's say maybe University of Colorado has a diversity essay, which is one of the most common prompts that you will see, but then maybe Baylor as well will have a diversity essay. So that will later allow you to see which essays kind of overlap, which essay prompts overlap, and then use those same essays so that you're not starting from scratch. So if you guys want to make use of this secondary app tracker and the full app tracker, I will link it below on my blog so you can just download it and use it as you wish. Tip number 2, pre-write your secondary essays. So typically you submit your primary application, and there's around a 1 month processing time where it takes for schools and the MCAT to process your application, to review the application, and then they'll start sending you secondary applications for the most part. So what you can do during this 1 month or so of downtime is start pre-writing some general secondary essays, and you can do that by focusing on the most common prompts, and I'll address the most common prompts in our next video. But there are several online databases that already have all of the past prompts for all of these schools as well as current prompts. So you can go on, there's 3 databases that I really like: Medical School Headquarters, Prospective Doctor, and Med School Insiders. I recommend you look through each of these 3 databases and you decide which one you like best. Stick to that one database and keep referring to it. So basically, let's take a look, for example, at Med School Insiders and what the secondary prompts look like. So you can see here I'm on the medical school secondary application prompts on medschoolinsiders.com, and they basically have the secondary essays for every school that you can possibly think of. So they have listed them in alphabetical order. Let's just take a look at, for example, Baylor College of Medicine. If we click on it, then it will direct us, and we can see they have a little bit more information. It'll tell you when the secondary deadline is, and this is for last year's cycle. It'll tell you the fee. Also, if you have the fee assistance program, if it's reduced fee. Do you need the Casper test? Are there any screenings, etc., etc.? And then I really like this database because it also lists the mission, the vision, and the values of the school, which is really important when you're trying to respond to secondary essay applications. So you can see here what their mission is, so you have a little bit of a background of what you're getting into. And of course, I definitely recommend you actually do your research on the school and their actual website once you're doing your secondary applications. But this is a nice overview. So here you can see the prompts for the secondary essays for 2019-2020 and indicate any special experiences. Let's see, any adversity. So this is probably the common prompt of diversity or adversity. What did you do during your gap year, if you had one? If you are a career change, is becoming a physician a second career for you? If so, what was your first career choice? So again, you can see, and they also have them for previous years as well. And they'll even give you some tips on how to possibly answer some of these questions as well. So again, if you are interested in checking out these 3 databases and figuring out which one works for you, I will also link them on my blog resources page. So you can find that below. All right, tip number 3. So we have started pre-writing some of our most common secondary essay prompts. We're writing some generic answers, maybe making an outline of some of our unique qualities, of the things that we potentially want to say, and create kind of our own story. So here for tip number 3, I recommend that you don't start from 0 every time. And what I mean by that is, again, there are going to be these most common secondary essays that a lot of schools will ask. So instead of starting to write everything over and over from 0 every time, I recommend that you reduce, reuse, and recycle. So if you have a generic diversity or adversity essay that you have written, then what you can do is cater that to every school, but just modify it slightly, okay? So this is where it's important for you to track the due dates, but that's why we're also tracking in our secondary application tracker the essay prompts, because you can see which schools end up overlapping. Then you can take that generic answer that you have written and maybe reduce the word count or increase the word count depending on what the school requirements are, then reuse that prompt and recycle it. So recycle and reuse and modify to cater to the school-specific mission or school-specific values. So again, this will save you a lot of time, especially if you're tracking, and if you have a bunch of tight deadlines, you should not be starting everything from scratch and writing from 0 for every single essay prompt. Now let's look at an example of an essay prompt written by 2 schools. So first up top we have the Mayo Clinic. We're all unique in different ways. Explain how your personal diversity manifests in your personal and professional activities, and they have a 500-word count here. So this is very clearly the diversity or adversity most common prompt that you will see. And you can see how they phrase it. Now let's look at New York University. The admissions committee uses a holistic approach to evaluate a wide range of student qualities and life experiences that are complementary to demonstrated academic excellence, strong interpersonal skills, and leadership potential. What unique qualities or experiences do you possess that would contribute specifically to the NYU School of Medicine? So here you can see that the prompts, one is very long, one is very short, one has 500-word requirement, another one 2,500 character requirement, but overall they are asking the same thing. They want to know what experiences, what diverse background, what unique life experiences you are going to bring to their community, how you are going to possibly fit into their community. So again, here, your answers will most likely be pretty similar. You will have these basic qualities or experiences that you want to convey to both of these schools, but then you can, again, specifically try and relate to what they're looking for. So don't start from scratch. Just make sure that you are conveying and modifying exactly what you want to, just trying to cater to their specific missions. Okay, so up until this point, you have filled out your primary application, and now you're working on your secondary applications. So in your primary application, schools and admissions committees get to see your GPA and your MCAT, and these numbers can tell a little bit about you. Maybe if they look at your transcript and they can see a consistent GPA trend or an upward trend or a downward trend or some fluctuations, they can kind of see a story as to what happened during your undergrad. Then in your primary application, you use your work and activities section to further build on that story. What experiences have you gained? What have you learned from those experiences? And it kind of shows your values, your overall impact, and possibly how you want to practice medicine in the future. And then you further supplement and you build up on your story using your personal statement. So all of these things come together. And now finally, when we get to the secondary application essays, this is yet another chance for you to tell the admissions committee who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, and this will then help them to see whether you will possibly fit into their program, into their community, and what values and beliefs they have. So again, each school will have a mission statement, right? And it's important for you to first realize, do your values kind of match up with that mission statement? And then again, through your secondary applications, admissions committees should be able to tell whether you would make a good fit for their school. So every time that you are approaching a secondary essay application for a school, I highly recommend that you go on their website, you learn more about the school, but one of the most important things is looking at their mission statement and their values and their vision. So here we have the mission statement from Emory University School of Medicine, and they say it is a leading institution with the highest standards in education, biomedical research, and patient care. We are committed to recruiting and developing a diverse group of students and innovative leaders in biomedical science, public health, medical education, and clinical care. We foster a culture that integrates leading-edge basic, translational, and clinical research to further the ability to deliver quality healthcare, to predict illness and treat the sick, and to promote health of our patients and community. So from this statement, I can see that they're targeting and emphasizing a few key values here. So diverse group of students, diversity, innovative leaders, so not only innovation and leadership, but then towards the end there, you can see some pretty high emphasis on biomedical science and research. So when you are then approaching your secondary essays, you want to create this narrative and build on your story of how you can contribute to diversity in the student population, how in the past you have experienced, you have experiences with innovation, how you have been a leader, and possibly how you have engaged in research and want to engage in research in the future, because then you're showing them that you will contribute to their values and to their mission. But again, one important thing I stress highly is that when it comes to a mission and values, this is a two-way street. You have to fit into their vision, but they should also be fitting into your vision. And what I mean by this is, let's say we have a school that has a mission that really emphasizes primary care and rural medicine. If you are not that interested in primary care and rural medicine, if it is not your overall passion in medicine, then you really have to think about, is this school a good fit for you, and should you be even applying to this school if they are catering to something completely different than what your overall goals are. All right, my final tip number 5, stand out. Now this may be pretty obvious or it may not be pretty obvious, but when it comes to standing out, it's pretty important, I would say, in this case. And I'll explain what I mean by standing out. So when you are writing your secondary applications, or even your primary and your personal statement, you need to think like in the perspective of the admissions committee. So you need to realize that they will probably end up reading hundreds of thousands of secondary essays, just like they have read hundreds of thousands of personal statements, and they will probably end up skimming over your essays or maybe spending only a couple of minutes reading them. So what would they want to read? Put yourself in that perspective when you are starting to write your secondary essays, and realize that it is important for you in some way to stand out and to be memorable at the end of the day, because if you just fit into all of the other applications, they will become a blur, and that will really not help you to stand out from the crowd. And so the way I think about this is, what do most other pre-meds say or do or write in their applications? And I try to avoid doing that. Now, if I write a secondary essay application and I can simply change the name on the paper and that secondary application essay is still applicable, then I probably didn't do a very good job of making it personal enough, of making it reflective enough, so that it is purely unique to me and who I am and my experiences. Let's look at an example here of the University of Chicago. So one of their prompts is, share with us a difficult or challenging situation you have encountered and how you dealt with it. In your response, identify both the coping skills you called upon to resolve the dilemma and the support persons from whom you sought advice. So this, I feel like, a lot of people can go in the direction of answering by saying they had some type of academic struggles in undergrad. Maybe they failed a class, or I don't know what happened in their class, and they ended up with a bad GPA, or maybe they struggled academically otherwise. Maybe they got a really bad MCAT. They had to retake the MCAT 3-4 times. And I would stray away from this. I would stray away from answering this question this way because so many other people have had similar experiences. So try to find something, dig deep, be personal. Try to find something that is unique to you and your life, a hardship that you have faced that not everybody else can write about, because that is what will show the admissions committee your unique character and your authentic self. And that will then in turn make you stick out in their mind because you're not writing about the same or similar things that all of these other people might also write about. So think about, with purpose, what can I write about? What personal thing? Where can I dig deep and be reflective? What can I really show the admissions committee that will make me unique to them and bring benefit to their program? Thanks for tuning in, guys. So these are my 5 tips for the secondary applications. If you want to see more on secondary applications, how I approached specific answers, specific questions, and seeing some examples of my personal responses, then please give this video a like. Don't forget to comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe for the upcoming secondary videos. I'll see you guys next time.